All right. Some of you are just as excited as I am because you have heard her talk before. She was on Meaningful People. She's on the Meaningful People app. She is a teacher at Neve, Raquel Kirszenbaum, and I'm butchering her name, but she told me there's a couple different ways to say it. So we're just going to go with it. Is a ball of positivity, energy, and just gorgeous, exciting hashkafa. And I am just so excited that she agreed to come onto the How to Glow podcast for us to just share some of her light and her wisdom. And I just wanted to offer, especially in these winter night months when things just kind of can feel a little bit like monotonous or heavy or just dark. It's just dark outside. We just need some of that like pick me up. And I just really, really love her energy. I love what she offered today. It's not at all what I expected to come from this interview. And that's what makes it so amazing. So I hope you enjoy as much as I did. All right. So, Raquel, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. I'm so thrilled to have you here today and to get to share you with our audience.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much. I'm a fan of your podcast. I think it's great. So I'm really happy you invited me.
So
Thank
fun.
you. And hi, everyone.
You guys, like Raquel has the most infectious smile. You cannot look at her and listen to her and not just light up. Like I'm already in heaven. So if you want to watch the video of this, we're going to post it on YouTube so everyone could just like enjoy you.
Amazing. Just make sure you don't notice one of my earrings fell, but it's fine. I still look good. Anyways,
it's good you didn't point it out or they might have noticed. Yeah, so this is good. Okay, great. So what I wanted to do today basically is I wanted to just have you come on and infuse us with some of your hashkafa, your personality. Like I feel like we just sometimes, and especially I think maybe I'm feeling this because it's the winter time and it's just this long stretch, right? This is when we really need that extra boost of that positivity. You know, we're not able to go take the kids to the beach for the day and like, just sort of get the sunshine. So I thought maybe if you would just start with talking about your story and then we can talk about how to bring Hashem, bring positivity, bring inspiration into our daily life as Jewish women.
Great. So my story is pretty long, but pretty much I was born in Venezuela. I grew up in Panama. At 17 years old, I was one time partying, and I always say, when you're like partying and you see this like 45-year-old lady next to you partying also, and you're like, yeah, you're still doing this. Anyway, so I stopped for one moment and I was like, what is life about? Am I only going to enjoy like movies and partying for the rest of my life? But it was pretty good. Partying is great. But then by God's hand, I ended up in Israel in a seminary. I didn't know what a seminary was because at that time, no one in Panama ever used to go to seminary. It's not like a thing we do. So I ended up in a seminary in Neve, and I fell in love with Judaism, even though I didn't become religious. And then I was only there for 2 months. I made some of the deepest connections in my life. And then I went back to Panama, came back to Israel, moved to Mexico, went back to Israel.
Oh my gosh.
Had to really negotiate with my parents because back then in Panama, no one used to become religious, so it wasn't like a thing. And obviously, even though no one in Panama also used to go to college back then, very few people because we're a Syrian community. And back then, people used to just get married young. Nowadays, everyone goes to college, but back then they didn't. But my parents expected me to go do something, so I was a very big disappointment. But going back and forth, I ended up in Israel again. Became more religious, then just stayed there. Went back to Panama, started teaching, came back. A lot of back and forth.
Wow.
And
I hope you had airline miles.
No, I don't even know how to use the miles, which is the funniest thing. And don't even get me started. Even now, when I fly all over to like go teach, I'm like, why don't I know how to use this? Anyways, apparently I never have enough points, or I never know how to use the points. But finally, I ended up in Israel, and I've been teaching in Neve for the last 12 years in Neve Yerushalayim, and then all over the place. Also, I teach every single college program and Kiru program, and I work for an amazing organization called Momentum, which is also known as the Birthright for Moms. So I am the Mashgiach Ruhani, the trip leader for the Spanish trips, and I do a lot of great stuff. And I'm married. Baruch Hashem. My husband is, we're very different. He wears a strimer. He's super frum. I'm a little bit colorful, even though it doesn't look like it's the winter, and I'm pretty colorful this morning. But and I have 4 children. Each one of them is a miracle on its own. And thank God, yes. I don't know what else I could tell you. It's a pretty long story, but that's
So much, so much
in a
amazingness.
short.
I love
In
that
a
you said
short.
you fell in love with Judaism before, before even just like taking on the mitzvos. And I think that it's such a gift that, I know that there's a lot of women who listen to the podcast who are raised religious, and I'm also Baal Tshuva. And I think it's a gift. It's a really a gift that we have. And most of the time, I think, I tend to go around being like, I think there was a mistake in, like one of the secretaries upstairs. I was totally supposed to be born FFB. This was all a mistake. But it's helpful for me to remember, like, it really, we get to have a sort of heart first experience, right, before each thing. So that's an
Yeah,
amazing
I don't
thing
know
to
what
say.
happens that a lot of people, we fall in love, and also especially as Baljuvas, we fall in love, but then we quickly fall in a routine, and then I guess we forget why we're doing things, but also they become a little bit heavy, and therefore we forget to find the meaning and the connection behind it. And one of the things that I always say, it's like the whole purpose of mitzvot, the whole purpose of everything is to have a relationship with God. And we're so worried of doing the things right and keeping the halachot that we end up in a box, but we don't have a relationship with God. And it's kind of sad because without a relationship, then there's no Judaism. It sounds more like a cult or something like that, but I won't call it
Right.
Judaism. But yeah, it happens to the best of us, no?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I remember my Rebbetzin, Len Finson, we were learning, I don't know if it was Shabbos or Kashrus or something, and we're all feeling like, wow, what a stretch. Look how religious I became. I've done all these things. And she said, girls, this is the easy stuff. Wait till you go back and now you want to, be not on the chavero, being out of like when you're really having to deal with a situation, you want to speak some lashon hara, you want to judge somebody and you don't, just like it's the fine tuning that's going to be really the challenge. And I feel like sometimes seeing it that way can be helpful. In terms of what you were just saying, I think sometimes we can even put a lot of energy into things that seem like they fit under the umbrella of Judaism that aren't even halacha necessarily, right? Might be like how to help your kids be successful in a certain environment or culture that your school happens to be because you happen to live in a certain city, right? Or how to just what's a normal Shabbos meal look like in your community, and like the pressure for that, which has not even nothing to do with Hashem, doesn't even have anything to do with halacha. So how do we stay focused? How do we stay grounded on what's important when we, as you said, we're busy people. We've got a lot of balls in the air.
So I have a few things to say. First of all, I feel like, when it's like Yom Kippur and everyone is like, oh, what should I do this year? It's like funny because sometimes we feel we have all of the things on the external, under our belt. So what else can I add? I already dress like this. I already do like that. And yes, externals are very important, but there's all of the internal changes that we don't really concentrate on. And the truth is that we are made out of a body and we have a soul. And the reason why we have to have external changes is so that our soul feels at peace in its vehicle, is that it feels comfortable, that we should be aligned. But to change the external without looking at how I can apply anything internally, so then that's a mistake, first of all. But also, what you're saying to like do things to how should we look like. I always have a question with this, which is I understand that we live in a society that it's very, external and it's all about the looks and it's all about the outside. I struggle a lot with this because, first of all, one of our greatest need is to fit in. It's the greatest need of a human being. Everyone wants to fit in. So we will do a lot of things to fit in. But at the same time, then number one, we are just molding ourselves to be something we're not. So therefore, we're gonna get lost. So we wonder why we have no connection, but it's because, there's no plug from our side. How could you have a connection if you don't even know where you are holding or who are you in the picture? But also, one of the things that we don't really think about is that all of Judaism, it's about how does my individual role feels in the greater, society, in the greater community. I tell people all of the time, the first commandment is, Anochi Hashem Elokecha shel chotzeticha, I took you out, you specifically. You go to a wedding and you see the chuppah, and the chuppah, it's a building. It's made out of 4 sides, but it's open from the sides. Because yes, you're building your marriage, it is your house, but you also have to see how it fits in the community. So first I have to give to myself, and then I have to give to the whole. But I cannot forget, I'm also part of the whole, but I cannot also forget that first I have to build my own little corner, right? We say Shema. Why do we say Shema Israel? big idea, but mainly because your ear is the most individual of all of your senses, you know? Like your mom always says, it goes through this ear, it goes outside through that ear. It's because we all listen to things in the way we want to listen to. But it seems to be that in Judaism, we forget to realize that God wants a relationship with me, uniquely with me. And if I'm trying to be everyone else, then there's nothing I could add into a table. There's nothing I could add into a picture. So first of all, I have to be me. Second of all, I have to know that God created me because he wants me to be individual. He wants me to be unique. And no relationship can ever happen if I don't know what is my part to bring into a relationship. So those are very big ideas that we have to consider and to really think, who am I? How do I connect to God? Look, that doesn't mean to say that there's no halachot, because I feel like nowadays everyone thinks, okay, whatever makes you happy, you know, like whatever fits. And even though we should strive to be happy, we should also strive to do what's truth, you know. But even in that, there is how can I make it uniquely mine and keep the Torah, but in a way that it's personal to me. And I always say we never argue the what, we only argue the how. And there's a lot of shades. And as long as you're keeping the what, you have to look for the how that fits with you so that you're able to actually be a part of that relationship. So yeah, that's one of my big thoughts on that.
I think, I don't know if it was Rabbi YY, but I remember hearing someone recently gave this mashal that I loved, which was like, the halachos are like how you play the game. But if you go to an NBA game, they're all playing according to the same rules. They've all accepted the same rules, but every player is going to play in a completely different way. I remember my brother was really into basketball growing up, and like he would teach me the different like personalities, kind of how they would play. So I felt like that was like a great way of kind of giving that perspective of, if we want to do something that doesn't follow the rules, we're not playing the game anymore. So like, yeah, maybe it feels good in the moment, just like if a guy stops playing basketball and goes and has some, I don't know, Dunkin' Donuts, but he's not playing basketball anymore, right? So he's not going to win the game if he's taking a break.
Yeah, not only that, but if you know how he's going to play the game, so then there's no strategy anymore. You can just know it from before. So there's no way he's going to make any baskets because you're already going to figure out every single move. You know, so spontaneity, I don't know if I said that so well in my English, but spontaneity is actually what brings the happiness, the joy, the enthusiasm, the inspiration, you know. So yeah, Judaism is a very big balance between, you know, doing the norm, doing the right thing, but doing it my way. And, you know, that's a beautiful thing because everything could be our way.
So that's like a great overall awareness for people to have. Do you have, I mean, I don't know if I'm putting you on the spot here, but do you have any like practical or like an example of how a person could in the day of her life, you know, she's in the middle of carpool and working and having friends for Shabbos and just sort of doing all the things. How, and she feels like she's, especially, this is wonderful. We're talking about spontaneity right now, right? Because now this is our longest stretch, right? We go from Hanukkah to Purim is a blip, and then Pesach, like this is kind of when everyone's like, because to breathe for a minute, but then at the same time,
and
we're
to
going
diet,
into
we get
routine.
to
What's that?
we get to diet also. First time there's 3 months without Hagim, and then you can lose all of the weight from Rosh Hashanah.
So, but if in the middle of doing all these things, like how can she practically, okay, she wants spontaneity, she hears what you're saying, and she agrees with you, but like, what's she gonna do? She can't go, you know. I mean, the first thing that came to my mind was that she should jump on a plane and go to Miami. Like, that's not how we get spontaneity in our Yiddishkeit.
No. So first of all, a person has to find some time to learn. You know, I always say, like, when a person learns, it's like you get to fall in love with God over and over again. You know, at one point in my life, I was already religious for a bunch of years. And then, you know, I always create classes that I don't know because that's a way that I stay connected. That's a way that I get to have knowledge. And one of my very big series is called Tamea Mitzvot, which means the flavor of the mitzvah. I teach pretty much what does this mitzvah has to do with you in your practical life. So literally, what do you learn from meat and milk for your life? And what do you learn from the tefillin? And all of this stuff, but it's all practical. So why is it called Tamea Mitzvot, the flavor of the mitzvah? Because why should we eat? You know, you never ask this question to women, but really we eat to stay alive. But when you eat something that you enjoy, it makes life that much more amazing, you know? And therefore, why should I keep mitzvot? Because God said so, because the Torah is true, because this is what I'm doing in my life. But when I understand it, right, when I am connected to it, then it makes my life so much more amazing because I'm not just eating, I'm eating chocolate, I'm eating whatever I want, right?
Yeah.
So first of all, we have to learn. If we don't learn, we don't get to be in a relationship. When we learn, I really feel it's like you're hitting the piñata and you're falling in love with God. And every time you're like, oh my God, did you know this? Did you know this? Did you know this? So if we don't learn, we're not going to stay inspired. For sure not. We're not going to stay connected. Find something that you like. Find something that you connect to. Find someone that you connect to. You know, there's so many people nowadays. There's so many ways of transmitting the Torah. So that would be number one. Number two, all of our souls have different affinities for different things. You know, some people really like meditating. You know, nowadays everyone is into manifesting and meditating and all of this stuff. Great. So you connect to a mitzvah of prayer, just make it Jewish. Some people are intrinsically modest. Some people really like hanging out with people. So, you know, you could offer to do carpool all of the time. But I think that the more that a person gets to know themselves, then the more that I could see what is my way of connecting. That's not saying I put aside all of the other mitzvot. I do all of them or whatever I can, whatever it's in my realm of doing at the moment that I am. But then I dedicate extra to this mitzvah because this mitzvah connects to my heart. You know, that would be number two. So finding the one mitzvah that connects to you, the one mitzvah that you could dedicate to. But number three, and I think is the most important one, is I always say that God appears in our lives so much, all of the time. You know, like sometimes I'm like teaching a class and the student randomly brought a chocolate, or, you know, someone just randomly sent me a message, or I was going to a supermarket and it was packed. And right when I get there, you know, some parking opens up for me. So I always call these moments the moments of God calling in to say, I love you. You know, that call, I just go to say, I love you. And when I am looking at those moments, I'm like, you didn't have to do that. But that was so kind. That was so extra. There's so many moments in our days that God calls in to say, I love you. And if we would be aware of those moments, we would just be on a high because it's like, you know, your lover is constantly calling and sending you text messages and being like, by the way, I was thinking about you. So there's so many moments that God calls in to say, I love you. But there's also so many moments that we could call in to say, I love you to God. You know, I am a person that in everything that I do, I try to find God. So, you know, even if I'm, whatever it is, you know, like I'm changing my baby's diapers and it smells well, or, you know, whatever it is, I'm like, you know, this is so cute. Even this smells good, or I go to a ride, or I meet a student, or, you know, I said in my Meaningful People podcast that, you know, I go to Disney and I'm not like, wow, this is such a cool ride. I'm like overwhelmed by how God gave intelligence to people to build this ride. Or I am listening to a song and you would crack up because I sing all of the time in my classes, but everything I teach suddenly connects to a song. And then I look at the song in such a deep way, you know, and that connects me to God. So it's not only us, I actually have a series on prayer, and I actually call it Living on a Prayer, based on a Bon Jovi song. You say, we gotta hold on now, living on a prayer. Yes. And I always say, this is like the deepest, you know, this is one of the deepest songs in the planet. It's not like you're praying, it's like you're living on a prayer, you're living with God. So when we find those moments that God calls in to say, I love you, and when we also call in throughout the day to say, I love you to God, then suddenly everything becomes a religious experience. Everything becomes a mitzvah. And by the way, that's exactly what a mitzvah is. A mitzvah, it's a physical expression of our soul. You know, we do all of these things to allow our souls to express. So when I am eating, but I am thinking, you know, God, thank God that you made all of this food, that it's healthy to keep my body fueled. I didn't just eat, I transformed my eating into a mitzvah. When I go to a gym and I'm thinking, you know, I want to stay healthy, I want to stay fit, I transform. There's a mitzvah called Ushmartem Nafshotechem. You have to take care of your body. So what we think is like we have to do the mitzvah, but what we don't understand, it's like, no, it's already in your daily life, in the daily routine that you do. What you have to do is to change your mindset and to be conscious of what you're doing and why you're doing it so that you can connect to God through all of these actions that you're doing.
Wow, that's beautiful. And, you know, I feel like on the one hand, because you had said before, like, you know, you teach because this is what helps you stay, you know, keep the flavor of the mitzvos. But I just want to point out for people listening, those aren't any of the practical tips that you gave people are things that every single person can do, right? Have time for learning, find your mitzvah, noticing those calls from God. Anyone can be doing this. And I love it. It's like so practical. Also, like I'll just share for ourselves. We've had a couple different ways that we've kept learning in our lives that have been really helpful. And I've been sharing them with people and they've told me that it's been helpful. One is when you have a friend that you want to keep in touch with or someone that you want to learn from, right? You like want to develop that relationship, creating a chavrusa with that person is such a powerful way of doing it, right? So especially living in Israel, people move back to the States or you're in the States and a friend moves to Israel. It's a great time to create a chavrusa. This is what I did with one of my good friends when she went back to the States. It keeps you plugged in and it's like a reason to get on the phone with the person and you get the Torah learning. Partners in Torah, signing up to be a mentor can be extremely valuable because you have no idea how much you know until you're helping. Outreach, for sure, that was ours when we were in the States, getting involved in that. Like when you have to explain the basics, then you have to connect to them, you have to understand them. Yeah. And of course, like most people would think of going to a shiur, finding their person, finding that class that they really love. And then you also get that social connection, that fitting in that we talked about sort of in the beginning, which I love.
I just want to say that I feel like we always have time for everything, but it seems to be when it comes to our relationship with God, we're always busy. It's like we have time to be on social media and we have time to go out for coffee and we have time. It's not like we don't have time. There's obviously we all know that a woman that's married, she doesn't have an obligation to pray because you're busy with your kids. And that's true. I'm not saying we're not busy with our kids. I'm not saying everyone should daven whatever amount of time. That's not what I'm saying. But the truth is, when we really look at our lives, we really do give a lot of time to a lot of things that we enjoy, but also to a lot of things that are just a waste of time, especially nowadays that we have phones, that we have social media. So why not set a time for something that really matters to us and for something that can really affect our lives, So when we become organized and we make it part of our schedule and we see the importance of it, there is time for everything. So, when my students say, so a woman is not obligated to pray, I'm like, if you're crazy busy, but if you're going to go out for coffee or you're, doing your makeup for 2 hours every day, then I'm pretty sure you could find 10 minutes, you could. It's just that we don't see it as a priority. There's something missing that we always think that Judaism is like on the backside. But if we're functioning on that relationship, then we're going to function on every single relationship. Because all of Judaism is a manual on how to have healthy relationships. And everything that I do is to take me to a relationship with God and then with my spouse and then with my kids. But if I'm not functioning on that relationship, that means I don't give value and priority to the things that are the most important in my life. And therefore, for sure, that's going to fail in other areas, So it's an important thing to know that it's all about getting organized. It's all about putting priorities and setting a schedule or whatever anyone needs to be. Everyone has to know their personality in order to be able to do it.
Wow. It reminds me of one of the things that I teach about marriage, which you're saying this about our relationship with Hashem, which is that we have to judge what our expectations have to be based on our input. If we're too busy to go on a date for 6 months straight and we're not, making a special phone call or buying him something or doing something, investing on a weekly basis, we can't expect that our marriage is going to be a source of self-fulfillment, self-actualization, understanding, compassion, connection, all the things that we want our marriages to be. You have to just understand it's not going to be that. It's going to be much more functional if you're treating it in that way. And same thing with our relationship with God, that, if we turn around and we're like, well, I haven't done for 6 months, but I'm waiting till I'm inspired. I'm waiting till I feel connected so I can dive in. Why would you feel connected? You haven't been putting anything into this relationship. There's nothing there on your side.
Yeah, I always say Judaism is not about the butterflies in the stomach. That's actually a gift of God.
Neither is marriage.
To you. Neither is marriage for sure. But I always say you go through this period where you're feeling so inspired and so elevated. That's God gift to you to have an idea of where you should get to and how you should feel, but that's not where Judaism is. Judaism is in the hard work, where you wake up and you don't want to daven and you're mad and you're annoyed and you're tired and you say, God, I'm still putting in the effort. I was just listening to a Meaningful People podcast and Rabbi Ben Shushan pretty much said, it's not about the daf, it's about the yomi. It's not about whether I read the page. And people think, it's about the big events in your life. The big events in your life don't say anything. There's this discussion in the Torah, which mitzvah is the most important mitzvah in the Torah. So some people think some people think emunah. And all of the sages agree is to bring the korban in the morning and in the afternoon. And you're like, really? That's the most important mitzvah? And it's like, yeah, that teaches you constancy. You build relationships with constancy. And constancy means like one day I'm lazy, One day I'm not feeling it. One day I'm angry. One day I'm high. That's really great. Most of the days you're not, but you're in it no matter what. That's what emuna is. Emuna means I'm faithful. I stay, even when it's hard. You know, there's this saying in English that says commitment starts when you want to quit. And I'm sure that you teach that also to your marriage. You know, commitment starts when you want to quit, when you're like newlywed and you have an amazing life and your parents gave you, you know, whatever, you're on a high, you haven't been challenged. That doesn't mean you're committed to your marriage. That just means that your marriage is giving you what you were lacking, and you know, it's a good way to be. But when you're finally, you know, when I'm not saying people should have challenges, but I also say you will have challenges anyway.
Right.
But when you are in it, no matter what, and you're constant and you're putting in gas, then that's, but that's a problem, by the way. People always wait till their cars are running low to put gas in the cars. And then you know what happens? Maybe you're stuck in traffic, and maybe, you know, and then you can't get out of it. Don't wait till you're running low to put gas in your relationships, in your in your awareness, in your consciousness. This is something that we have to do all of the time. Because I always say, if you live from paycheck to paycheck, then Corona comes, that's it, you know? But if you have a little bit of extras, then you're going to have some savings account to keep you going for the rest of time.
So good. I just want to say that anyone who's listening to this and is like already starting to come up with ideas, especially because you were talking about priorities, and is your day reflecting your priorities? I want to encourage people either right now to pause the podcast, or as soon as we finish this conversation, I would even say right now, pause the podcast and write down what's coming up for you. Because you might actually right now, you know, this is what we do is we get that inspiration. We're like, oh, it's true. My mornings could do this. I could do this with my mornings, and I could fit into feel it. And maybe I want to do like meaningful minute. They did that. I loved that the Feel It Before Tech initiative. I thought that was brilliant, right? It's such a simple way to just create that space for yourself. And not to mention the fact that from a mental health perspective and psychology, you know, all the pop psychology, you know, personal, everything is all about push off tech as long as you can in the morning. But if someone right now is starting to come up with ideas or ways that they can implement what you're saying, I want to encourage them to pause the podcast. Don't wait until it's over, because then something else will bing on your phone and you will look at that message, and then you'll be sucked into your day and you will not take that opportunity. So since this conversation is pausable, I get to say that to people.
And I wanna add to what you're saying. I think this is one of the most important advices, which is don't say, I'm gonna study every day. You know, whenever I have time, this is no. You know, the Torah says, Aseh Torah Hakeva, make your Torah fixed. I always tell my students, it doesn't matter what is the step that you're doing, what matters is that it is fixed. If you say you're gonna study 5 minutes a day, I wanna make this point. You don't wait till you have 5 minutes. You say every day from 8 to 8:05, I'm going to study Torah. Now listen to what's going to happen. That's maybe like what, 1% of your day, but your whole day evolves around it's 8 a.m. I have to study Torah. You know, when my students go like, oh, I want to be tzanua, I'm going to wear skirts every day. I'm like, no. You pick 2 days a week that you want to wear skirts. And I tell them, you name the 2 days. Monday and Wednesday, I'm wearing skirts. So you know what happens? Usually you would say, I'm going to wear skirts 2 days. But what happens? I have a wedding. I'm going to a beach. So this day's not good, but it's fine. I'll make it up next week. No. When you committed to Monday, I'm wearing skirts, what happens is you have to make it work. And therefore, Judaism becomes a priority in your life, because now I have to make it work. So when you're pausing and taking that time to write what you want, be very specific about it. I am not any day, whatever I am doing, this is what I'm stopping. Obviously, be specific about it and also be real about it. You know, you're not gonna put, I'm not gonna speak Lashon Hara from this hour to that hour if that's the hour that you're taking your kids to school. You know, like it has to be an hour that it's possible for you to do it. But you know, when it's Rosh Hashanah, we always say, if you make for me the hole of a needle, I will open for you the doors of the banquet. And really, the hole of a needle is so small. But I always tell people, but the hole of a needle is permanent. You know, anything you do in your life, it could be tiny, but it has to be something that's fixed in order to be permanent. Because if not, I am feeling high today, and then I'm not going to feel high. The same way everyone goes to the gym after New Year's, and then they don't go to a gym anymore because it's not a routine. They didn't make it fixed. You know, I actually go to a gym every day for 2 hours. I have mental issues, but people always ask me like, how do you have time? And how do you get ready? And how do you have your kids ready? I'm like, I have a schedule. I have things that I'm going to do, and I make it happen. I have time for everything. I'm a full-time working person. I kids. I have millions of guests for Shabbat. And, you know how it's like to live in Israel where you don't have any help or anything whatsoever. But this is something that I need. And therefore my day is, organized in a way that I'm going to have time to all of the things that I need, but also I'm very specific about my times. It's not like when I have time. No, it's not like, I'll do so much because no, it's like from here to here, that's what I'm doing.
Wow. You go to the gym for 2 hours a day.
Usually 2 hours a day, yes. But
Teach us how.
I know
This
I
is
don't look like, but
amazing.
don't be fooled, people. I am in crazy shape. I can do like 60 burpees in a row. But yeah, I go to a gym almost every single day for 2 hours a day. But to
Wow.
classes. I don't do weights, but my classes are amazing. I do kickboxing, heat, everything. But yeah,
That is so cool.
discipline.
You're so cool. Why are you so cool? All
I
right.
also teach exercise classes, by the way. And
Really?
people always come and they look at me and they're like, you're the one, and they think I'm chubby. But listen, people, you come to my class, you pass out. I could guarantee you that. But anyways, yes, I have a lot of energy, as you could see.
It's great. Well, and now we know why. I mean, it's not just you exercise because you have energy. You have a lot of energy because you exercise.
But also because I'm committed. That's really the thing. I am
Yeah.
committed to whatever I need to do. I always say, like, if you have to, you have to. But if you don't have to, you won't. I
Yeah.
don't look at things like maybe I can, maybe I cannot. I look at things like, well, they're my responsibility. So if I don't do them, no one's going to get them done. And, throughout all of the challenges that I have had in my life, which are plenty, you're welcome to anyone that's listening to this, you can listen to a Meaningful People podcast. One of the things that kept me going all of the time was like, well, I'm going to have to get out of this and I'm going to have to take care of this because no one else is going to do it. And, sometimes people make fun of me that I'm super this, super that, but I'm like, no, I'm just committed to what I need to do in my life. And when you're committed, you will find a way because if not, it's not going to get done,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, I think those are values that we have to put in everything. In everything, we have to put these values.
That's amazing. And oh, there's so many things I feel like I could go off of based on what you just said. But one of the ones that I'm thinking of is that, someone could be listening to this. I sort of hear my clients' voices as I'm interviewing people, like what they would bring to the next coaching call, like, Kayla, I'm not committed like her. I don't have that personality. She's able to do it. I'm not. And what I would respond is that most of the women listening to this podcast would never stop at Arby's and get themselves a bacon cheeseburger. I don't know if they sell bacon cheeseburgers at Arby's, but let's say they do, right? They never would. It doesn't matter how hungry you are, right? It doesn't matter if there's nothing else you can find to eat. If you keep kosher, you'll keep kosher. And the same person in another situation will be like, I've committed not to eat sugar during the week. And here she is stuffing her face with cookies, right? It's not a question of you not knowing how to commit. It's just a question of you bringing the commitment to an area of your life and prioritizing it, like you're saying, right? Everybody has their commitments. I have this where we told my mother we're going to go back and see her every other summer. Is that something we can afford? Thank God. Our family is big enough that is a major, major undertaking, right? I'm going to make it happen. I don't know how, right? But I'm going to make it happen because I told her, and that's a response. Like that's my commitment to her that it's going to happen. And then something else, I'm like, oh well, you to see, and it can reflect back to you what your own priorities are, right?
Yeah,
Because
that point.
yeah, right. Like
That,
if
that
you're not
point.
committed to something, so maybe it's not that important. Like, why are you pretending you care that much to go off sugar? Maybe you just don't care to go off sugar.
Exactly. Exactly. So that point, people think it's a thing of personality. It's not a thing of personality. When you become committed, you mold your personality to do that which you're committed to. But we many times convince ourselves that we want things that we don't want.
Mm-hmm.
So the truth is, I don't care what anyone wants, but be honest with what do you want, not what people tell you you should want, and not what you decided you should want, because when you're doing that, you're just, like messing yourself up. So once you're honest with yourself, then you're gonna want to make it happen. But it's not a thing that it's personality. I really would love to just watch TV every day and eat ice cream instead of going to a gym. But I know the feeling that I'm gonna get, and I know how proud I'm gonna. Just this Sunday, I was in this class. It was crazy. She was cool. I was doing like literally, I did like 80 burpees, and everyone is looking at everyone like they're dying, and I'm like going, and I was the only one that got to the third round of burpees, and I'm getting up from this, and I'm like, I hate you, but I love you because the satisfaction that I get from myself from achieving this is just totally worth it. And I always say, like, wisdom is knowing that the loss is worth it to compare to the game. You're always going to lose. You're always going to gain. There's always something that you need to sacrifice and something that you're going to gain. But it's knowing, what am I losing? What am I gaining? Because once I have that, then yes, I'm going to lose. Yes, I'm going to be tired. Yes, I'm going to. But what am I gaining out of that? And therefore, I decided mathematically that it's worth it. You know, it's an investment. So everything in life, it's an investment. You don't invest in something if you don't have to put some of your money, something of yourself. But people always think it's a thing of personality. You're not, it has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with what are you investing. And as you said, once you're committed, you will make it happen, because no, it's not. And what do we say in Judaism? In the way that a person wants to go, you're taken, you're being guided, but you have to want to go. Once you want to go there, God will make it happen. I have no idea how or what, but that's not up to me. That's up to God, you know, right. So it's fine.
Exactly. And I love that you're modeling for us what that commitment looks like, because I think what happens when I see somebody come in and they're struggling with commitment is that what they were doing is actually, I have I don't know if it'll be the last episode when this comes out, or a couple episodes back, but it's a live coaching call. One of my clients came on and we coached on the podcast episode. And she was doing this, right? She was trying to, we sort of come at the thing that we're trying to commit to with this hustly energy. And what I think that's coming from is we're trying to hustle past all the objections that are coming up for our head. Like, wait a second, but I'm always very tired at that time of day. Or I don't actually know if we can afford a baby. Like all the things that are coming up for us, we're like, no, I'm totally into it. I'm totally going to do it. I'm going to post on social media that I'm giving up flour for a month or whatever, like the thing is. And actually, what you're showing us is if you need the intellectual clarity first, you need to take that beat and slow down. And this is what we did in that session, is slow down and listen to the objections. Get mathematical about it, like you said. Do these objections override the benefit? And if not, then we need to handle them. We need to deal with them. We need to solve for them. Its energy doesn't blow past, maybe it'll work once or twice. But at some point, that information was really, really valuable information. We didn't want to just again, blow past it. We want to slow down and hear it. And what you're showing, I think, sort of energetically for people to listen to, is that a commitment is a very grounded thing. It's not like a hyper pushy energy. It's no, this is just it, right? This is the commitment. I'm going to do it. It's not going to get done. What is there to discuss, right? And when we're in that energy, it's actually a lot easier also. Just nice.
Yeah, people should also challenge their objections, because like you said, people say, oh, I'm tired. But you stay up till 12 a.m. doing I don't know what,
right.
When it's Elul, I go to Selichot, because even though I married Ashkenazi, so I still go to Sephardi Selichot, because who wants to go to Ashkenazi Selichot? No offense to anyone in the audience, but try out the Sephardi and then you'll see. Yeah, so, it's like at 12:30 and it finishes at 1:30. And then I'm like, how am I going to go? But then I say to myself, but Raquel, every Saturday night you go to sleep at 2 a.m. anyways. So you don't have an excuse for that one. So I said to myself, at least Saturday night I'm going to go. Because I would have stayed up doing shtuyot anyways. So if I'm going to do shtuyot, I could do it. We say, no, this mitzvah is so expensive, or this thing, I don't want to pay for that. I remember one time my husband, he got all of these places and they were so expensive. And I'm like, how would you do it? But then I'm like, but I go and buy I buy cheap dresses, but I would buy this dress for this amount of money. So I have money for this, but I don't have money for this. I have time for this. I could stay awake for this, because if I would go to a movies, I wouldn't mind staying awake. So let's be real about our objections. And again, it's only because the other things are more entertaining, more welcoming, more, they make us feel more good. But in the long run, doing the right thing will make you feel much better. Maybe not at the moment, because it's not instantly pleasurable, but later on, it's like that, me going to a gym, it's just like, I did this. So yeah, it's some thought we have to put into it.
I think there's a really challenging cycle here, though, with what you're saying, which is that, again, this is sort of from me watching my people, and I'm sure myself also, but to be able to challenge yourself, and which allows you to commit and build your self-esteem, you need a certain amount of self-esteem, right?
That is true.
To be able to call yourself out, if your self-esteem is very fragile and your sense of self is very fragile, and you sort of feel like you have to be perfect for, it to be okay, we get defensive even with ourselves, for sure, if someone else calls us out, right? But even calling ourselves out is something it's reflective of already having self-esteem. But then what people get stuck in is then they don't call themselves out because they don't know how to handle it. But because they're not calling themselves out, they continually don't show up in a way that they're proud of, which means then they don't develop the self-esteem.
But then, as you said, it's a cycle, right? How do we think we build that self-esteem? How do we think we do it? By showing up. Every time you show up, you get a point of saying, I did this, I could, I put myself as a priority. So then you do it again. So I can't have self-esteem if I have never got to a place where I feel like I could achieve something. So, I have a student now that she never wakes up on her alarm clock. So every day she pampers herself and she says, well, at least I woke up. I'm like, no, 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 you don't understand. Your job is to wake up when you put your alarm. And after you did it 5 times, then you're going to feel so good about it. And what's going to happen is then you're not going to have to fight it anymore because now you know you can do it. Till today, you don't know you can do it because you've never done it. So how do we actually build that self-esteem? So yes, let's go back. I'm not saying everyone has to expect millions of things from themselves, but do a tiny hole, something that you can do, that is fixed. And the more that you do it, the more that you will be like, I'm there. And also, by the way, like, that's why we have all of the knowledge and all of the Judaism that we have. I mean, God believed in you. Do you need any more, booster than that? You woke up this morning. Not everyone woke up this morning. God thinks you can do it. We say, so a lot of people think my faithfulness in you, God, it's great. I go to sleep yesterday. I'm tired. I woke up this morning. No, no, no. God's faithfulness in you, it's great. I tell my students every day, the fact that you woke up today means that there's something that you can do that no one else can do. You're not a stunt in a movie. If you don't make it, your place is not going to be, replaced that quickly. So once I wake up, I've never actually snoozed my alarm because sometimes I do stay in bed, but I'm awake. I do want to say that. But I wake up with this feeling of like, you believe in me. I'm going to get up. Like, how could I waste this life? And when people tell me I'm just very tired, I'm like, guys, it's not tired. It's lack of motivation because you don't feel your life is exciting enough or there's something good enough waiting for you. So if I am motivated and that motivation comes, stop for 1 second and be like, wow, I woke up. What does God think I need to be doing? Not only did I wake up, by the way, I woke up rejuvenated. It's as if God is saying, I put $100 in your bank yesterday, you wasted it, but fine. I'm going to put another $100 in your bank today. Let's see if you're going to use it well. So then at some point, you're going to be like, wow, you really think I could use this $100? So how do you think you're going to wake up in the morning if you have that feeling? And then we go back to every day that I do something, it adds up to like, wow, Raquel, it's amazing. And like, I'm not saying, I don't have the greatest self-esteem in the planet. I also do want to say like, self-esteem is divided by parts because we're all made out of many parts. I could be really good at one part and not so good at the other part, but it's all about, I stop and I say, well, I do this here, or I can do this here. Why not? Why don't I take that part and those feelings and apply it also somewhere else? But the self-esteem comes from that knowing I am capable. So once you know you're capable, you could apply it into every single area of your life.
Amazing. Amazing. And I love what you're like. I feel like I just want to point out that none of this necessarily requires dramatic changes in your life, right? Like you don't have to move, you don't have to quit your job, right? So much of this is just about awareness and these tweaks, right? Like again, spending 10 minutes on social media, maybe that could be davening, right? But if you have that awareness, if you've really thought it through, you'll have the motivation to do it. Is there anything you want to leave people with as we wrap this up? Any final thoughts?
Maybe in 1 second, but I just wanted to tell you that one time I was teaching this class in America, and I was pretty much saying like all of relationships is I love this, but I love you more. I was just saying that the other day, like a tiny video from Friends ended up in my Facebook. So I love Friends. So I was like watching this clip for like a second. So it's like Rachel just had a baby girl. So then Monica is saying she already has all of the names for her babies. So everyone is like, Monica, what's your names? And she's like, no, I don't want you guys to take them. So they go like, no, what's your name? So Monica says like, fine, if it's a boy, it would be Daniel, And so then Rachel, who had a baby girl, for anyone that doesn't know Friends, she says, what about if it would be a girl? And she says, no, I don't want to say. And she goes like, come on, Monica, I'm not going to steal it. So then Monica says, fine. If I had a girl, it would be Emma. So Rachel goes like, oh, Emma. She's so beautiful. And, everyone is looking at Rachel like, okay, this is why she didn't want to tell you. And Monica turns to Rachel and she said, you can take it. It's fine. You can have it. And Rachel goes like, but you love this name. And Monica says, yes, I love the name, but I love you more.
Aww.
And everything in life is, I know, I had to, but everything in life is, I love this, but I love you more. I love this, but I love you more. And one time I was teaching this whole class about how now 7-ish minds, like, I'm just gonna do it. And because love is what matters to you, matters to me. It's a huge class. And one of my students came to pick me up the next morning and she said, you know what? I was thinking about what you said the whole day. She said, like, if I wake up in the morning, even if I'm late, even if I'm tired, even if I have my coffee because my coffee is my coffee. I don't just have my coffee. I take 5 minutes, to make my good coffee and to sip it. But she said, I don't do this with like davening. I don't take 5 minutes in order to have it. That's if I have time left. And she said to me, you made me realize yesterday, I love my coffee more than I love many other things. And, that was a great point of awareness. But yes, how much do you love your coffee? Because we all know there are things I would never go without, ever. So then why don't we make those things that are good for us and things that are valuable and things that allow us to have a real relationship with God? So I don't know what my parting words would be, but everyone has to know that you can have a deep, meaningful life. And, feeling under the weather, many times it's okay, even if you feel it every single day. But this all of these weeks parashiyot, we've been learning about Yosef. So I always say, like, what is the test of Yosef? Yosef is like the one that everything he does goes badly. When you have like good intentions, but then it doesn't work out, and there's always this point of like, what was the point? Why do I keep on trying? But that was Yosef. Like our rabbis say, the test of Yosef was that you fail constantly at doing what you think you're doing it's right. And and to keep on trying, because that was really the test of Yosef. And now obviously we all know how the story ended up. He became the vice president, but even then, it wasn't like the easiest thing in the planet. But Yosef is actually the only person in the whole entire Torah considered successful. And when the pasuk tells us that Yosef was successful, it says, "Vayehi Hashem im Yosef, ve'haya Yosef ish mashliach." And it was that God was with Yosef, and Yosef was successful. In the Torah, we have a rule that whenever a pasuk starts with the word vehaya, it's going to give us good news, like the Shema, vehaya in Shamoah. And we have a rule that whenever it starts with the word vayehi, it's going to give us bad news. So it doesn't really make sense because the Torah is telling you vayehi, and it was bad news, that Yosef was successful. Good news. So how do you make sense? And the answer is Yosef was successful because of all of the vayehis in his life. It was all of the falling, it was all of the pushing. That was considered being successful. Success doesn't look like every day I'm feeling it, every day I'm shooting baskets. No one likes to see a basketball player that everything he shoots is a three-pointer. It's not entertaining. At one point, it's amusing. At some point, it's not entertaining anymore. We want to see someone that pushes it and that gets it. And anyone that you admire in your life, I can guarantee you, is someone that pushes it. It's not someone whose life is gold and they have everything. It's not someone like that. And therefore, we have to change our definition of success. And success is not amassing or achieving. Success is doing the best that I can with what I've been given. Success is falling and getting up. And therefore, if you're listening to his podcast and you listen to Kayla's amazing coaching and you're thinking, like, I failed again, so what? Get up and try, and you're going to make it. And the fact that you fell and you got up, that says so much about you. That says that you have a personality that is resilient and that you want to be good. And I'm telling you, one day you will be good. And you are good already. I don't mean to say like that, but one day you will be at the place that you want just because you never gave up. My daughter the other day, she learned how to jump in that little ball business, that you put like a circle in your food and then you have the ball and she's like, Ima, ni lo ejola, Ima, ni lo ejola, Ima, ni lo ejola. And then suddenly after 500 tries, she was doing it. And I'm like, see, you can do it. And I'm like, that's what effort looks like. Effort looks like that. But if she would have given up at the 500 times, she wouldn't have gotten it at the 501. That's Moshe, right? He done it 515 times, not 514. So keep going and believe in yourself, because if God is giving you life this morning, it means he believes in you. So I don't know what else you need, but
that is perfect.
So yeah. More than a person believes in God, he has to believe in himself. That's a famous saying from our sages. So yeah.
Thank you so much. I think that's exactly what we needed.
Thank you.
Such a good boost in the middle of the winter.
So
thank you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And Bezat Hashem, maybe one day we'll meet in person.
I would love that. That'd be amazing.
Thank you. And thank you to all of our listeners and to all of Kayla's listening. Keep listening to his podcast because it's amazing. That's part of the work. Anyways.
All right, great.